morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Everts.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard. Welcome up to a brand new week getting started here. So we head down the home stretch for the month of April.
I know. It went by so quickly. I can't even
believe
it.
It really did. It's been going.
And we're still having chilly weather.
We are. Yes.
It was a little brisk this morning. I was like, oh, okay.
Celebrating climate change.
Yes.
But stick around because we'll have more climate change later this week.
Yes. Well, and Earth Day was Saturday, Bill.
Yeah.
And I will tell you
the
what.
Earth is still here.
It is. However, if you were out at Tybee, man, the amount of trash on 80 on all going from the islands all the way out to Tybee, I mean, it's crazy. You wouldn't think that these people care about the earth. I'm just saying.
Yeah, really, and they don't, or care about each other. Shootings and everything else. They don't care about other people's feelings, property, or anything else. And this is disgraceful, and it needs to come to a stop.
So, Bill, what do you think caused all the problems as far as, there was stop traffic, which, I mean, going out to Tybee can happen because there's one way in.
Yeah, there's always, we've been talking about four-laning that road for at least 50 years. And, but we might kill a fiddler crab or something, so we're still doing studies on that.
So there were car accidents where people were ejected from the cars. We had a shooting out by Fort Pulaski this weekend. There was a shooting on the beach, or there was gunshots on the beach. Residents were terrified. Restaurants were not allowed to open. The employees couldn't get home, and they couldn't get to work, so they had to close a bunch of the stores and everything on Tybee. So, I mean, it really was a total fiasco out there.
Yeah, and these organizers or whoever's responsible should be ashamed of themselves. But they're not, because they don't have any shame.
Well, they said that...
and they don't have any respect.
Well, they said that public safety was their number one issue. However, I mean, they just opened up Tybee to all of these people, and there was no... I mean, there should be a limit on how many people can be out on Tybee. I mean, it's not a very big island. It was... Just seeing the footage this weekend, people jumping on residents' cars, twerking on top of the cars, just really lewd and grotesque behavior in my opinion.
It's been bad before, but this was the worst ever. And to Adam Van Bremer and others of the Savannah News Media, who had an editorial in the Savannah Morning News, or what's left of that rag, saying that the people of Tybee are racist because they didn't want this, and they should be welcoming it with open arms. Pox on both your houses, Adam. Let them come to your house and celebrate.
Well, that's the thing. They have big events out there all the time. They have 4th of July. They do the St. Patrick's Day parade the week before.
Exactly.
I mean, they have the beach bum.
The Pirate Fest, the beach bum parade, and they have Pirate Fest, and it's all, it's crowded.
There's traffic and things, but it doesn't shut people down.
But people are obeying the law, and they're respecting other people's rights and property. Yes.
So total fiasco out on Tybee and out on 80 this weekend. I know that Jesse Petrie was posting updates because the governor did...
State representative.
Yes, he did. The governor put more police officers down in Tybee to help out, but I do know that the representatives probably were getting an earful this weekend, including Buddy Carter. I know that he had made some phone calls trying to figure out what they can do, because they also want to come back next weekend.
Oh, okay.
For round 2 of Orange Crush. So I know that would be a very difficult thing for Tybee to absorb at this point. There were people that couldn't get to their Airbnbs this weekend. They were in traffic, and they can't get a refund. I mean, there's a whole ripple effect that I don't think people understand. Like, we have to respect each other. We cannot have disorderly conduct like this that impacts the ability for people to get home. I mean, 2 or 3 hours to get home, that's ridiculous, Bill. Mayor
Shirley Sessions, Shirley, I love you. But speaking of this weekend's event, she told the WTOC, said that in spite of it all, I'm very, very pleased and very thankful that Tybee didn't occur any loss of life or any serious property damages. Well, you might want to talk to the people who've had serious property damages, okay? And jumping up and down on people's cars. Cars are expensive. I don't know if you've noticed it or not. Maybe the city provides you with a free one. But they need to stop this, and they need to make sure that it doesn't happen this weekend. I don't know exactly how you do that, but there needs to be some sort of a limit as to how many people can be on the island in the first place. Perhaps if you have to set up police roadblocks, and start one of those counts where when we were coming in, where they got the little
coming
clicker.
In, going out.
Yeah.
I mean, they did it during COVID. They could figure it out.
Yeah, that's right.
It's interesting that she says there's nothing they can do, but yet she didn't want their beaches opened during COVID. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. In that respect.
What was so funny was that they tried. We shut the Savannah parade down in 2020 for the first time in history, and they were and they were trying to make the decision on whether or not they were going to have the one at Tybee, and they made the decision, and they already lined up. Everybody already lined up for the parade, and they were all ready. And they finally made the decision like at 9:30. Half an hour before the parade was supposed to start, and the parade official said, "We're going anyway." And they started going down the street, and nobody died, nobody caught COVID, people weren't dropping like flies. So, so this whole COVID shutdown, I mean, it's another story for another day, but the whole COVID shutdown was a joke.
Yeah, well, and I do know that.
And a disgrace.
The people on Tybee are not happy, and
well, they shouldn't be.
They're definitely saying that there should have been more done, more planning, and also there should be some regulatory thing as far as the city could put out there for how many people can be on the island and things like that, just so they don't have this kind of craziness. Because, like I said, it wasn't just Tybee that it impacted. It impacted Wilmington Island, Whitmarsh Island, Tulahee Island. I mean.
Yeah, because you got to get out there. I mean,
and there's only one way.
Yeah, unless you got a boat or a helicopter.
Yep. Well, so, I don't think people were prepared for what happened, and we were at the GOP in the 1st District had their convention this weekend, so we were down in Kingsland, and on the way back, I mean, people weren't getting home until almost 8 o'clock at night because of the traffic if they lived on the islands. I mean, I was home by 5:30, so I mean, that's a huge difference. Yeah. So I felt bad for the people that, planned on being home or planned being somewhere and weren't able to get there.
Well, then the state of Georgia needs to step in because, again, Mayor Sessions says it'll always be a public beach. We can't forbid people from coming to our beach. Oh, we don't own Highway 80. That's the state of Georgia. Okay, well then get the Georgia Highway Patrol out there to stop them. And Governor Kemp, here's your chance to do something. Well, I know you're going to be called. And by the way, get ready to be called a racist.
Well, and he did. He did send police down.
I know.
He intervened. So. But I do think that better planning, and also if you know that a big event like this is coming, like talking to all levels so that we know what is the response going to be if we hit these numbers, like what is it going to look like, how are we going to monitor the roads, how are we going to make sure that residents that pay taxes here aren't so interrupted with everything that they can't live their normal life. Like that's the thing. It was a crazy weekend for people that lived out there.
Yeah, Tybee resident Jackie Deaton also told WTOC, said it's a tourist island, it always has been, and we want people to come and we want them to have a good time, but they need to follow the rules. And this is something that this crowd doesn't seem to be appreciative of.
No, the behavior that I saw, Bill, was unacceptable. Yeah. I'm not on board with twerking, and I'm all about people having fun, but like when you're interrupting someone else's stuff, like no. Yeah. And people were mad because there weren't restaurants open. People closed down the gas stations.
Well, how can you open the restaurant if the workers can't get there?
Well, also, one of the statues at one of the churches there was also vandalized. It was broken off, and they're going to now have to replace it. So, vandalizing
and who do they see about who are the organizers of this thing? Who do they talk to about getting monetary replacement for those things or car damages?
Yeah, good luck. I mean, good luck. I don't think that's going to happen. But it'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend. We'll stay on top of it. But I did hear rumors that they were trying to do Orange Crush weekend number 2 next weekend. So,
okay, well,
or this coming weekend.
I hope they put a squash on that.
Yes, me too. Well, you would think that there would be permitting when you have big events. Usually, you have to have like
you're supposed to have a permit. Yeah.
Yeah. So. I'm not really sure what
Let me go to the permitting process, but at the same time, if suddenly all of a sudden 50,000 people decide they're going to go down there and go there and cause trouble, you're overwhelmed. It doesn't matter whether you got a permit or not. We're supposed to have a border in this country too, and we got tens of thousands of people a day coming in. Yeah,
it's a whole other story.
Yeah.
So, poor people on Tybee, but we'll follow this and see like what ends up happening, because I do think that there will be an after action plan, and we'll see what they come up with.
Yeah, let's find out and see what happens. But it's just so I feel so sorry for the people who live there, people who work there. That this had to happen, because this could be done in an orderly fashion. People go out there and have a good time and not act like a bunch of hoodlums and idiots.
Correct. So,
call us racist, okay? Because I know you're going to.
I mean, we need to start just saying what is actually happening, regardless of who gets offended. I think that, political correctness.
Yeah, if we haven't offended anybody by now, we're not doing a job.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can grow some thicker skin.
But that'll be the day.
Yeah. I got a phone call from you last week, Bill, and I was very surprised.
That I called you?
Yeah. Well, that you called me for and asked me about a policy that you thought that the GOP was going to be passing.
No, I said I'd heard from someone that it was going to pass, and that we'd be in real trouble for it.
Yeah, so I just wanted to address it. I don't talk a lot about the fact that I am the new chairman of the Chatham County Republican Party here, but I do want to make clear there were, of course, we made front page news in the Savannah Morning News, and there was someone that wanted to discriminate against LGBTQ as well as alcoholics, drug addicts. I mean, her list was quite long, and that is not what the GOP is about. We are a political organization, and while I definitely believe that people have the right to their religious views, that's what we were founded on, was religious freedom. That's not our responsibility to judge people for anything, really. So I just wanted to make that clear that I don't stand for that, and no one on my board stands for that, and we were very appalled by someone even proposing this. So moving forward,
and I think the story that the Will people put on the front page of the paper yesterday was a non-story. In other words, they're looking for something to cause discrimination. Says that the GOP is racist and everything else. So they use this, which is not part of the plan. Because there are a lot of wild things that come out of the Democrat Party too, and they go ahead and do it.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's the other thing, Bill, that's just so disappointing is that even, he had quoted me in the paper, and while I think he was doing his best, to be fair, I think his main goal was to try and get clicks, and so the way that he ordered my responses to things made it seem like we didn't vote on something because of that resolution that she was presenting, and that wasn't true. So I think that there are just some things that he read into or made seem like they were a certain way when they weren't.
Well, they also put headlines in the paper and elsewhere because most people just read the headlines and they don't look into the story. That are deceiving headlines where it said that the LGBTQ X04 tilde sign for boron pineapple community comes up with these and said that they're being discriminated against, and they're the ones who started this fight to begin with. We didn't want this fight. But you brought it to us, so now we're going to fight it. But they keep coming up with these headlines that say that all the legislators around the country are passing these things to ban LGBTQ community. No, they're not. They're doing things to ban things that are not humanly possible or that are not by nature. Telling a 5-year-old boy that he's a girl, or telling a 5-year-old girl that she's a boy and needs to have sex-changing surgery is not part of the plan here.
Well, and we're not saying that people can't get these surgeries. We're not saying that at all.
No.
I mean, if you're 18 years old and you want to do it, great.
When you're that stupid, go ahead.
But at the end of the day, our job as adults is to protect children, and it has always been our job to protect children. And I don't know where that got lost. But at the end of the day, children are not allowed to make decisions on tattoos, piercings, and here's the other thing, Bill. They're trying to make it normal for children to make these kinds of decisions. Where do you think this leads?
Why don't we set up bars at the schools?
Well,
so they can have alcoholic beverages at lunch. And
I think it's more nefarious than that. I think it's, if a child wants to sleep with an adult, then that's their decision. I mean, this pedophilia stuff, this all goes there.
Exactly.
So we're in very dangerous territory, and people need to wake up about what's going on.
These people that try to legitimize their lifestyle, and Hollywood leads the charge on this, among other things, and public schools are falling in line with it, and churches are as well. It's happening from the pulpit. You see a lot of churches here, Methodist churches are pulling away from the United Methodist Church because of their policies on things. So The Bible hasn't changed. God hasn't changed. And he doesn't have a calendar. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we're going to take a break, but when we get back, we're going to talk about what Buddy Carter has been doing up in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, I am Bob Williams, current president of the Savannah Scottish Games. This is our 44th Savannah Scottish Games. We've been at Bethesda Academy for the last 15 or so years. Simultaneously, we have the Border Collie demonstrations herding sheep. We have children's activities. We have the Celtic dancers, the Highland dancers. We have the athletic field right in front of us here. And behind me, we have the Celtic music entertainment tent. So we have over 50 clans represented here at today's games. This is the time for Scots to get together, share their cultural heritage. We have a genealogy tent so they can find out the history of their family name and how it connects to Scotland, along with a lot of the Scottish history. We have reenactors on site that demonstrate some of the activities that were taking place during the 18th and 19th centuries. As this country was getting settled and this role that Scots played during that.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
At Get Real America, we'd like to thank the Southeast Georgia Republican Assembly for all their efforts on making a difference in our communities.
At Get Real America, we are focused on Savannah, but we'd like to hear from other communities as well. We have a lot in common.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Monday.
Here we are, Bill, after quite the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, there were some good things that were going on, like the art, the Sidewalk Arts Festival went off well.
Did you go?
Yeah, oh yeah.
What was your favorite?
There were a couple of them. There was mostly like characters of kind of wolves and things of that nature, or kind of made up characters from cartoons and things of that nature. But I was kind of overall disappointed.
Oh.
It was not as good as in years past.
Okay.
There were some, it was a kind of mediocre. You see a lot of the same stuff. Drawings of the mushrooms, or drawings of this, that, or the other.
Nothing really.
There was one. I saw one political protest I saw one positive thing of an American flag and kids saluting the American flag. Another one of the Statue of Liberty being pregnant and talking about women's rights and things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was that piece of crap. But for the rest of them, it was okay. There were some that there was an absolute amazing replica of one of the most famous portraits in the world, the girl with the pearl earring.
Oh yeah.
And it was stunning how close that was to the real thing. So things like that, and there were several others where I love the way they do the perspective of angling and making things look three-dimensional.
Yeah.
It was really impressive in many cases like that. But just overall, I didn't see too much stuff that just really stood out where we said, wow, that's best in show. They did have a group there that they have an alumni section as well.
Okay.
And they have this one group that's been there they said their 38th year in a row. They've been there the entire time when it first started on the street corner, or around from where it is now. And they had they'd taken out like several sections and had a perfect replica of Alfred E. Newman from Mad Magazine and some other cartoon characters that were very, very impressive. But it's just, again, a fun time, and people were having a good time. Nobody got shot. Nobody were jumping on cars. Nobody was twerking. It was really nice.
Oh, good. And the air show, did you happen to make it to that?
I didn't make it to the air show this year. I really wanted to, and the weather was perfect for it.
Yes, I know.
But the Blue Angels are always fantastic. I'd love to see the Thunderbirds come back sometime too.
Yeah, and the Blue Angels were only on Saturday, and I was very sad I missed it. They were not on the list for Sunday.
They weren't? I thought they said they were going to fly Saturday and Sunday.
No, it wasn't on the schedule when I looked at it, so maybe if they did fly, let me know. But very exciting stuff, and we have Buddy Carter here. He, I think that the Republicans are they're getting where they need to be. It's taking them a long time, but they finally are standing up for women, which I appreciate because that used to be the Democrats' thing, but that's not anymore.
That's not anymore. Yeah. So, but Buddy Carter in his latest weekly briefing talks about how they're standing up for women's rights, the real women's rights.
Welcome to this week's edition of Buddy's Briefings. We're coming to you this week from one of the many softball fields on the National Mall, where when the weather's nice in Washington, you'll see people out here enjoying this area, beautiful area. The reason I chose this location is I want to tell you about a piece of legislation we passed this week, H.R. 734, the Protecting Women and Girls in Sports Act. Some of you will remember back to the early 1970s when Title IX was passed to prohibit sex discrimination in college sports. Well, Title IX, it's really caused women's sports to flourish. It's been great. It's been one of those examples of legislation that really did a lot of good. Well, it's under attack now because there are a lot of sports, a lot of colleges that are allowing biological males to compete against biological females. H.R. 734 will prohibit that. It'll do two things. First of all, it'll define what a biological female, biological male is. That is, what you're born, your reproductive biology, your reproductive genetics at birth, that's what you are, a male or a female. It'll also prohibit any federal funding from going to any schools that allow biological males to compete against biological females. Earlier this year, we had International Women's Day. I honored Judge Frances Eckinger from Effingham County, who recently passed, but she was the first elected judge in Effingham County back in the 70s and served a long time. Over at the White House, they honored a biological male. That's what we're up against here. I've been truly blessed. I got 5 precious granddaughters. They are beautiful. And I hope they enjoy sports as much as I've enjoyed sports, as much as my sons have enjoyed sports. And if they decide to compete, I want to make sure that they're competing against biological females, not biological males. That's just common sense. This is good legislation. Shouldn't have to have it, but it's good. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, buddy. But there are a lot of things that these days that are not common anymore, and common sense is one of them. It ain't common.
No.
We have these contradictions in terms, stainless steel isn't, friendly fire isn't, common sense isn't.
Well, and the thing about the women's sports, I don't know if the volleyball player that got hit in the face with a ball that was spiked by a biological male, I mean, she had to have reconstructive surgery on her face.
Yeah.
The MMA fighter that is now a biological male fighting females cracked a woman's skull. I mean, the power that they have against a female is, you can't compare the two.
No, you can't.
And it's very dangerous for women to compete.
And no amount of surgery or pills or anything else changes that. It
does not. It does not. And I'm concerned that if we allow this to continue, I mean, number one, women are already, I mean, fighting the battle with so many things. It's a crazy that we fought so hard for, you know, for our right to vote and things like that. And now it's like, we're under attack again. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, and the Dylan Mulvaney thing, which I know we're probably going to get in trouble for talking about, it's a parody of what a woman is. Like, not every woman is a ditzy, like, I don't know what anything is. I don't know what I'm doing. Isn't this cute? Like, no.
Yeah. This is. I guess this is beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm supposed to enjoy this.
I
guess this is a sports bra. I'm supposed to wear this for the idiots at Nike.
Yeah, you know, and here's the thing, that Bud Light thing is not going away. No. I mean, it's definitely not going away.
Pam and I were shopping at Kroger yesterday, and we're passing the beer aisle, and there are stacks of Bud Light sitting out. The cases are sitting out of the refrigerated section. There's a bunch of them in the refrigerated section, and it looked like, you know, that they've just got them. The Anheuser-Busch distributors are just furious because they're telling Anheuser-Busch that don't ship us any more Bud Light because we can't sell the stuff we have in stock now.
Well, and here's the thing, the boycott, it does impact people that are working for Bud Light.
Yeah, and I feel sorry for the workers at Anheuser-Busch.
And that's how I feel as well, but I do think that we should not be supporting companies that are pushing this kind of stuff, especially when, you know, they came out with the commercial, the Clydesdale commercial, you saw that.
Yeah.
And then people were more offended because it's like, now you're pandering. Stop. We're not that stupid.
That's right. In fact, it's like, I hope that the Anheuser-Busch distributors have the same amount of success that Subway owners had a couple of years ago when Subway started these commercials with Megan Rapinoe, the communist that plays for the women's soccer team. And I saw her in 2 commercials, and suddenly the Subway people were calling up and said, "Our business is dropping off like a stone in free fall. Get this woman off the commercial." And all of a sudden, and she was gone from those spots. So I hope that they have that kind of success with Anheuser-Busch distributors.
Yeah, and I will say that there is a company, it's a watch company, but they are using their advertising to show their pro-women values.
When I was a little girl, I had this dream that seemed so impossible. I was going to be the fastest runner in the world.
It will be a new world record.
I got this little nugget of an idea from my dad. He used to watch me run and say, "Ain't no woman alive that can beat you." And I believed him. He made me feel invincible. It wasn't easy. I trained hard, harder than anyone else I know. But I was made for this. I was an unstoppable force, a life dedicated to perfection. But even perfection wouldn't be enough.
Excellent.
Yes, and I think it's interesting. It's a watch company, but I think that they are a company that tends to use their advertising for their beliefs and values, which I think is interesting. And I know sometimes that drives you crazy, but I thought it was a good commercial, and respect them for doing it and standing up for women. So We got to go to break, but we'll be right back.
At Get Real America, we want to make sure that the real story gets out, and you can help us as a sponsor or as an advertiser to make sure that that word does get out to the community.
Be a sponsor and support your local community here at Get Real America.
Hello, I am Bob Williams, current president of the Savannah Scottish Games. This is our 44th Savannah Scottish Games. We've been at Bethesda Academy for the last 15 or so years. Simultaneously, we have the Border Collie demonstrations herding sheep. We have children's activities. We have the Celtic dancers, the Highland dancers. We have the athletic field right in front of us here. And behind me, we have the Celtic music entertainment tent. So we have over 50 clans represented here at today's games. This is the time for Scots to get together, share their cultural heritage. We have a genealogy tent so they can find out the history of their family name and how it connects to Scotland, along with a lot of the Scottish history. We have reenactors on site that demonstrate some of the activities that were taking place during the 18th and 19th centuries. As this country was getting settled, and this role that Scots played during that.
I don't think it's an accident that I ended up writing music for a living, because I think I lived in a house where I saw how deeply it affected everyone in the house. And just how much everyone defined themselves by the music they listened to.
Music as a framework, I think, gave my parents my identity from a young age. You can like any music that you want if it makes you feel happy. And now when I hear certain songs, I think of them, and I think of them in their happiest state, and it makes me happy.
If they seem like they're having trouble talking about something, I try to tell them about a time when I felt something similar.
Whatever the issue was, we would tell them the pros and cons and how important it was, and that they had come to us because we could always help them. I think the real important point, we always told them, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, we will help you through it no matter what it is.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard on this Monday morning. Yes. And you think that crime is just gone to the big cities and everything else? It's spread all over the place, and the lack of enforcing it is getting worse and worse with all these Soros-funded DAs that are running around the country. And it's also hit in our nearby neighbor, South Carolina. One of my favorite people, the Attorney General for the state, Alan Wilson, said that this is preposterous. They've just had a murderer released, an early release from one of the penitentiaries there, and he was on with Trey Gowdy. I'm going to call him Kurt forever. Was a famous sportscaster years ago, but Trey Gowdy on the Sunday Night in America on the Fox News channel last night, and saying that something needs to be done.
Back to Sunday Night in America, Jared Price was convicted of murder and sentenced to 35 years in prison, but he was released more than a decade early because of a secret order signed by a retiring judge. Neither law enforcement nor the victim's family knew about it, and there's no record of a hearing, just a secret agreement. The defendant says he was entitled to a sentence reduction because he helped law enforcement. But even that's sketchy. Part of the so-called evidence of his so-called help may have come from a girlfriend who happened to be a prison employee. There are many angles to this story, but there's one angle that will not get much attention. Jared Price was represented by a South Carolina state legislator. Not just any state legislator, but one who votes on judges and serves on the committee which screens judges. Yes, this defense attorney is a lawmaker and a judge maker. He decides who can run and then votes on who can win. Can you imagine walking into a courtroom and there's a lawyer on the other side who both screens and elects the very judge you are appearing before? Does that inspire confidence in our system? Does that seem like a level playing field? But that's what happens in my beloved home state of South Carolina. Lawyers screen the very judges they appear in front of and elect or unelect or re-elect those very same judges. Crime victims don't screen or elect judges. Cops don't screen or elect judges. Prosecutors don't screen or elect judges. But in South Carolina, criminal defense attorneys can and do, including the Democrat criminal defense attorney in the middle of this secret get-out-of-jail-early deal. So here we are, a Democrat lawyer legislator who screens and elects judges, gets a judge to sign an order one day before that judge retires, releasing a convicted murderer from prison. And all of that in a state allegedly run by Republicans. South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson joins us now. General Wilson, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I don't think you or the prosecutor who put Jared Price in prison even knew he was being considered for early release, did you?
No, I learned about it early last week, Trey. In fact, you did a great job of framing the issue here in South Carolina. We learned about this about a month after he was actually released to the Department of Corrections. This is something many prosecutors and people around South Carolina have been talking about for many years, is somehow to find a way to have more transparency in how judges are elected and more balance. As you know, as a former elected prosecutor here in South Carolina, the General Assembly completely controls how judges are elected and selected in South Carolina. We don't have a say in the executive branch of government. So I have been basically arguing for years, along with many others, that the executive branch of government, either through the governor or through other agencies, needs to have a seat at the table in how judges are elected. And Trey, one last thing, the greatest travesty of this is that the parents of the murdered young man that this man was sentenced to prison for, they learned about this literally hours before he was released through an automated robocall. So their rights were violated under our Constitution, and that is very upsetting to many people.
Now, General, you had, if I'm correct, you had to petition the Supreme Court to unseal this order, right? I mean, you had to get involved to even find out what was in this secret order.
Yeah, that is correct. Our office sought to have this order unsealed. Thankfully, the local prosecutor and the defense attorney you described a moment ago did consent to it due to all the public scrutiny that was being played in this case. So they did consent to it, but we are obviously asking the Supreme Court to go a little bit further and reset this thing and recommit this individual to the Department of Corrections, and so that we can go ahead and go back and give these victims a chance to be heard. As you said, the documents that were in this sealed order at sketchy at best, and I don't know that on the merits of this person would have ever been allowed to have what they call a downward departure or have their sentence reduced. But in my position is this person does not belong on the streets. This person belongs in prison. And as you also know, Trey, the murder statute here in South Carolina is different than the federal statute. you have to serve day for day up to 30, or you cannot go below a 30-year sentence. That's why they call it a mandatory minimum. So that law was also violated, in addition to the rights of the victims in this case.
General, what is next to happen here? You got the order unsealed. I mean, are we going to go back and have a hearing and let another judge decide whether or not this amount of assistance qualified him for a reduction? What's next in this case?
Our office has moved before the Supreme Court for a hearing this coming week to basically have this judge's order void because it didn't follow the statutory requirements, and to have Mr. Price recommitted to the Department of Corrections so that then we can have a hearing on the merits of whether he should have his sentence reduced. I would argue that his sentence cannot legally be reduced, especially below 30 years. But we want to right the ship, get this train back on the tracks, get him reincarcerated, and then give as much sunlight, as much transparency as we can for the people of South Carolina, especially the victims' families. People have a right to know what happened, how it happened, and so that this can never happen again.
General Alan Wilson, thank you. We'll have you back. We'll keep following this story, and we'll have you back. Thank you for joining us on the Sunday night.
Wow.
It's getting way out of control, and I don't know if they mentioned how are we allowing this kind of stuff to happen? Do we have more Soros DAs that we don't know about? What is going on?
Well, the fact that the family wasn't notified or anything else. We've gone through this in Chatham County on numerous occasions where they said that the guy that it wasn't necessarily a murderer, but maybe somebody who assaulted someone, a rapist, was released early, and the family wasn't notified or anything of that nature. Whether it was child abusers or anybody else, that they get released because of good behavior or whatever it was. So it was long before even the Soros elected DAs were around. And sometimes it's parole boards that come up with this stupid nonsense. That well, he's been nice for a few years, so let's let him out. He's learned his lesson. That's not. I can remember there was a book several years ago by John Carrington about more gun. He's one of the guys that wrote books like More Guns, Less Crime. Okay. And he said that he was talking about this police officer, chief of police in Iowa, who was murdered by he was looking into a robbery in a garage or something, and he saw some disturbances or something, went in there, and the perpetrator beat him to death with a shovel.
Oh my gosh.
And he was and the Iowa parole board released this guy after 7 years in prison. And when the public outrage came along, they were saying, and this is a direct quote from the head of the Iowa parole board, said, "Our only reason for keeping him incarcerated any longer would have been just to punish him." Oh. Okay, I want you to. I know you're probably sitting there saying, "I didn't hear that right." Don't attempt to adjust your set. The Iowa parole board chief said, "Our only reason for keeping him incarcerated any longer, 7 years for murdering a police chief, would have been just to punish him." How does that grab you?
Well, so what were the first 7 years for?
To
just
teach
for
him
fun?
a lesson. Teach him a lesson. Teach him a lesson. Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense to me though.
Well, it doesn't.
Well, someone that we normally don't agree with that has made a lot of sense lately, Bill Maher. Yeah. I mean, I've been so surprised by some of his comments.
Well, he was what we called in the 60s a late bloomer, because he came along or a slow learner. All these. I remember all these protesters from the '60s that came, and suddenly they're CEOs of some big corporations or something. He said, "Oh, this free enterprise system must be working pretty well for them that they were demonstrating against 8 or 10 years ago." So we call them slow learners. Bill Maher the same, because he's coming up and said, "Why don't we do something about black on black crime?"
Like Chicago, like most of the shootings are young black men killing other young black men. Is that not correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, much more than what the cops do. Why doesn't anybody talk about that? Well, I mean, why aren't there 100 giant black celebrities who would have the respect of those people saying, what are you doing to yourselves? Why are you killing each other?
This is no way to live. This dishonors our community. Come on. We're better than this.
Right. I feel like it's never addressed.
And what I would want to observe is that any structural move that you want to make requires a majority of the people to get behind it, requires democratic politics to get behind it. And in order to get a majority of the voters in Chicago or any place else to get behind anything that's going to cost them money, they have to feel safe. They have to feel that the people who are in charge are on their side. And that's why Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson needs to come and give speeches in which he says this is contemptible behavior. We won't tolerate it in our city. The reason we have cops is precisely in order to stop this from happening. And if you do it on my watch, you're going to go to jail. He needs to say that in order to get the white taxpayers in the city not to move out of the city and to get behind whatever structural program a clever man like Danny comes up with.
But, I mean, okay, so I also read this week in the paper, one in 3 children in America cannot read at a basic level of comprehension. 85% of black students lack proficiency in reading skills. We already spent a lot of money on schools. So you're going to keep telling me more money will fix this? Because I feel like this is much more connected to the problems of people who can't read. Yes, they're going to have problems with gainful employment. And it seems like, you know, a lot of times the solutions that come from the left seem symbolic. They don't seem like we're actually addressing what really needs to be done, is get kids learning, get them reading, get them able to have a job. I don't know how.
Yeah, and passing more gun laws is not going to help either.
No, and our friend Lizzie Warren commented and said, when the Dems lose Bill Maher, you know that they've jumped the shark.
Yeah. And it's like nothing changes. You know, they always talk about, you know, we keep having these school shootings and people aren't doing anything about it because they're not doing the right things. Passing more gun laws and trying to take guns away from legitimate gun owners like me or like you is not going to solve the problem. But when I was working at WJCL back in the 1970s and 80s, we had some couple of black reporters that had bumper stickers on their car, "Stop black on black crime." And we just asked them, said, why don't we just have "Stop crime"? But "Stop black on black crime." So this goes way back. This didn't just happen overnight. And what happened in Chicago this weekend was an absolute disgrace once again. But you're not hearing anything about that. And by the way, Chicago, along with New York City and San Francisco and some other places, have the toughest gun laws in the world.
It really hasn't helped those cities, has it, Bill?
No. So we have these 11 to 12, or something like 30 or 40 shootings every weekend, usually 11 to 12 fatalities, including, of course, some kids who apparently could not find jobs and couldn't find any other recreational facilities. So they stole a car. They ran through a stop sign in an intersection. They hit a pickup truck and killed a six-month-old child.
Bill, and I'm sorry, I don't understand how this has been a problem for so many years, and yet it's amazing that we keep electing officials that don't help our cause. They do not help like any community out.
They seem to exacerbate it.
Yeah, they continue to create more problems, and nothing's ever solved. We've been fighting the same issues for 40, 50 years.
It tells you one thing, Brittany. They don't want to solve the problem.
Then I don't think they need to be elected officials.
That's
how I feel about it.
You know, it's like we keep telling, and we've heard from the lady last week who lost her son, who was stabbed to death, Afghan veteran in New York, and said how shabbily she was treated and how shamefully she was treated by the DA in New York City, who has winked at all of the murders and assaults and everything else except Donald Trump, for something that happened 12 or 15 years ago. and is announced and is costing the city millions and millions of dollars to prosecute. And she said that these people, as Donald Trump had said, why don't you try voting for Republicans for a change? What do you have to lose? You've been voting for Democrats for 60 years. How's that working for you?
It's not, Bill, and we'll talk more about that, as well as getting to the next president on our list, which is Warren Harding. So we'll be right back.
It's coming up.
Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a walk. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Entertainment tent. So we have over 50 clans represented here at today's games. This is the time for Scots to get together, share their cultural heritage. We have a genealogy tent so they can find out the history of their family name and how it connects to Scotland, along with a lot of the Scottish history. We have reenactors on site that demonstrate some of the activities that were taking place during the 18th and 19th centuries as this country was getting settled, and this role that Scots played during that.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard on this Monday morning here as we go down the home stretch for the month of April.
It's so wild to me. This year's going to be over, and I feel like when we're getting into presidential election season, it just flies by. Mm-hmm. It's wild.
Yeah. And speaking of presidents, we've been doing a series, thanks to Prager University, for putting together the series on American presidents and finding out all these things that we should have known but didn't. And today it's Warren Harding.
Sometimes a president who appears pathetic is actually just plain tragic. And because he is a president, his tragedy is also the nation's. That was the case of Warren Harding, the 29th President of the United States. Harding was perhaps the most misunderstood and least appreciated of all America's chief executives. Born in 1865 in a small Ohio town halfway between Cleveland and Columbus, Harding was a brave and unusual politician. He didn't start as a politician. He spent most of his life as the editor and publisher of an Ohio newspaper, the Marion Star. He ran unsuccessfully for governor in 1910 and then successfully for senator in 1914. In the presidential election year of 1920, Harding was considered a dark horse at best, but he emerged after 10 ballots as the Republicans' choice. He certainly looked and even acted the part, tall with thick white hair and deep penetrating eyes. Harding was as genial as he was handsome. To know him was to like him. And Americans did like him. He won the 1920 election in a landslide, garnering an astonishing 60% of the popular vote. The country that Warren Harding and his running mate, Calvin Coolidge, inherited faced multiple crises. To win World War I, the government had taken over large sectors of the economy. But what works in war doesn't always work in peace. There was an inflation crisis. Prices for basic necessities like milk and butter rose at alarming rates. Prices that businesses paid for materials doubled. There was a tax crisis. Corporate taxes were so heavy that businesses couldn't expand. There was a labor crisis. Tens of thousands of Americans, many disabled, returned from Europe to find a stagnant economy short of jobs. Angry workers mounted violent strikes, and there was a government debt crisis, a result of war spending. By 1920, it seemed that life in crisis was the new normal. Absolutely not, said Harding. Harding vowed to end the war laws and rules, to let the country go back to the way things were before the war. He wanted common sense life, the kind that had enabled Henry Ford to start his auto business. America's present need, Harding said, is not heroics but healing, not nostrums but normalcy. Normalcy was the motto Harding and Coolidge gave their campaign. The Harding plans for normalcy were simple. Let the Federal Reserve tighten money to wring inflation out of the economy. Cut spending so that the government can pay off the war debt. Cut tax rates to free business and encourage hiring. Block new entitlement payments, even to veterans. Instead, build veterans' hospitals. Return those industries that wartime government had taken over back to private hands. In short, give the economy and individuals the freedom to find their own way. After taking office, Harding made all the right moves. He named a tough cabinet, including the nation's great master of debt, the banker Andrew Mellon, to the Treasury post. Harding coaxed Congress into giving the president the executive power he needed to analyze and stop excess spending through the Budget and Accounting Act of 1921. Finally, Harding pushed through tax cuts for individuals and businesses. And for the vets, he planned special hospitals, the origins of the VA. All the pieces were in place for a return to the old normal that Harding had promised. For the first time in a while, America's future looked bright. But here is Harding's tragedy. The man lacked discipline. He planned well, but executed poorly. For example, when it came to those hospitals for veterans, the men Harding put in charge of construction took kickbacks and did shoddy work. When it came to the promised privatization of government oil reserves, Harding looked away when friends leased reserves to their friends. The scandal would be known as Teapot Dome. Harding besmirched the very principles he was advancing. The pressure on Harding kept mounting. He could handle attacks from his enemies, he told a journalist. It was his friends, his damn friends, who kept him awake at night. In the summer of 1923, Harding traveled west. While at the Palace Hotel in San Francisco, Harding passed away suddenly, doubtless due to the pressure of mounting scandal. The new president, Calvin Coolidge, was left to clean up. In the years that followed, the country rose again, in part because Coolidge marshaled the discipline Harding lacked, but also because of those Harding policies with the quirky name, normalcy. Yet Harding was not around to see his own success. Over the decades, salacious stories about his scandals obscured his impressive achievements. That's Harding's real tragedy, and our own. I'm Amity Schlaze, chairman of the Coolidge Foundation for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Yeah, for sure. And there is an excellent video or an excellent situation or special on Calvin Coolidge on Fox Nation. I highly recommend to you. And the book on Coolidge is really, and she may have written it, is just excellent about what a great president he really was. They didn't call it the Roaring '20s for nothing, because he took over. The economy just skyrocketed when he cut taxes and cut spending on the government.
It's so interesting, Bill. Like, throughout history, the things that work, they work every single time. So
yeah.
It's interesting that we still have these battles today.
Yeah, Rush Limbaugh used to say, when you learn 2 times 2 is 4, you don't need to take another course in that.
No.
Yeah, it works all the time.
No, and
even though it is racist.
Yeah. Yes. Of course, Bill. Of course.
Yeah, everything is.
That's going to do it for us today. We will be back tomorrow morning.
See you then.